Welcome to another edition of Your Impact Attack. That's right, it's Your Impact Attack. And boy, oh boy, do we have the show for you tonight. And who is we? I'm Jamie Williams, also known as the Vet. And with me, as always, my tag team partner, Brandon. Brandon, tagging in. What's up?
Yo,
Hey, how's it going? Brandon, so first, I wanted to just briefly mention. Okay, so you appeared on the A Show last week with April Hunter and Big Ray Hernandez. And I got a chance to watch it, and I thoroughly enjoyed the conversation that you guys had. And I think that a lot of people, if you're fans of this show, at least, you should definitely check it out. But I wanted to just ask you, just your general thoughts on that show. Did you enjoy your time on that show? Is there anything else that you would like to say about it, or anything going forward?
I enjoyed my time there. I thought it was a great conversation. April and Ray were amazing. I felt very safe and comfortable there, and it was a uh, welcoming and insightful experience. I thought we had a great conversation.
That's right. And they didn't ask you any like softball questions either.
No,
They
no.
basically they were you were sort of answering questions that a lot of people I think want to know, and even like Ray said, like people didn't want to ask. They kind of want to know, but they didn't want to ask. Now I've always felt that, like, if you don't want to ask, you don't really want to know, because any knowledge that you're seeking as a human being or whatever, you want to get it however you can. So I think it's more of a case of people not wanting to deal with things. But I just found a lot of stuff very enlightening. Things, I mean, I talk to you every week, but we talk about Impact Wrestling. We don't talk about important things usually. So even with somebody that I've known as long as I've known you, I still was able to learn things, and they asked a lot of questions, especially April asked a lot of questions that I was like, oh, that's a good question. If I was in her seat, I would ask that question. So I encourage everybody to check it out if you haven't checked it out. If you want to, if anybody needs more Brandon in their life, check out that episode of the A Show. But is there anything else you wanted to say about the episode, or anything?
I just think that I think that what can really help a lot of people out is just being open and having these conversations with each other, not being afraid to be offended or just being open and honest.
Yeah, it's it really is the best policy, honesty. At
Of
least
course,
I've
that
found.
as George Carlin famously said, that make dishonesty the second best policy by default.
By default. Sure. Um, but yeah, so very very interesting, very enlightening. And yeah, so that's that. And I don't know if there's anything else that has happened recently that you'd like to comment on. I don't really.
Mm,
I can't think of any wrestling news or anything else.
mm.
Mm, mm.
I just could take this continuing to build the WrestleMania.
That's right. And who really cares about that anyway? We're here to talk about Impact Wrestling. And if you guys in the chat, which we're about to acknowledge, if you guys think of anything that you'd like to ask or that we should talk about, maybe, even though we're stuffing in two reviews into one show, maybe, just maybe, we might have a couple of minutes left to answer any of those questions. So go ahead and hold those, put them in your pocket, put them in your purse, handbag, European carry-all, whatever you want, and then maybe like right at the end, we'll see if we can help you out with that. Um, but what do you say we start with the what Impact was this? What was the date on this?
I believe that was February 23rd.
February
23rd.
23rd, the 23rd of February. Okay, so we're going home, and our go home show is one night. It's like this show happens, and then the next night is the pay-per-view. Seems like it's back to back, but they probably taped this a month beforehand, so they had to wait a while.
Oh,
Let's
dude, the
yeah.
feed I watched the one that was on the Impact Network feed, and it opened with apparently they messed up with there's a lot of production errors on it because it opened with David Penzer hyping up the crowd, trying to get people to buy like the 3-night tickets, and then the whole countdown. All right, let's get hyped up, and then it goes into like the video opening package.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yep.
So why would they? They let you did it seem to you like they shouldn't have left that in, like they didn't mean to, or
It looked like a screw up because there was production errors on that feed or in that version all night, like audio and video weren't synced up. There was one point during when the Death Dolls tag team title match, the audio was gone completely or it was very faint.
yeah, well, impact and audio issues hand in hand, chocolate and peanut butter, that type of thing. So yeah. Oh, real quick, I almost forgot to acknowledge the lovely chat. If you'd like to run through who we have here with us so far.
Of course, we got Labrat hanging out with us. We got Jerome Hall. We got Lisbeth. We got Javi Uchida. And I'm sure more will be filtering in as we keep going.
Oh yeah, get me Hatebot. What's Hatebot doing on a Monday night? Yeah, son of a bitch, bastard. We all know the bastard's the worst thing you can be, according to Vince McMahon. So.
Well, then again, Young Ryder needs some help.
Oh yes, Young Ryder definitely needs some help right now. Our thoughts and prayers are with Young Ryder right now. Another post from the hospital. We've seen Young Ryder. And yeah, we'll hear more from Young Ryder shortly, I'm sure. All right. So besides David Penzer trying to hype the crowd, they show this episode. We show before we get our usual recap. Okay, like Brandon said, apparently David Meltzer was begging people to buy 3 tickets.
Oh, I'm sorry,
3-night tickets. Or not Dave Meltzer, David Penzer.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I apologize. That was for the pay-per-view show, not the Impact show.
Oh, it's for the pay-per-view show. Okay. Yeah, that's what at first I thought you meant that, but then I was like, well, see, it could have been on the regular TV show too.
Who knows? Knowing them.
Right. All right. So never mind that. Trey Miguel and Crazy Steve are locked up for Monsters Ball. We know how they like to lock them in a room for, 24 hours? Do they even say? Or do we just show them locked in a room?
Yeah, they say it's 24 hours, no food, water, light, or anything. Just basically you're locked in a room going mad for 24 hours.
Damn. And WWE people complain having to get to the building at 11 a.m. Imagine you have to get there the day before and just get locked in a room while everybody else gets to sleep in. That's fucked up. But yeah, so we see that. And then we're going to open. Our opening match is a speedball and an octopus versus 2 machine guns. Yeah, sounds like some PWG shit to me, but or Chikara maybe.
Or it sounds like one of those arcade games you used to play in the tilt.
Oh, shit. What do you think about that? Speedball and octopus versus machine guns? Okay. Remember that game Lucky and Wild? Did you ever see that?
No, I didn't.
It was like one of those sit down and drive games, but there was 2 guns in it. And it's like you're playing like a cop duo, I guess, Lucky and Wild, and like one person drives, the other person shoots, but the driver still has a gun, so you could both shoot, and you like chase down like armored cars that got robbed or different stuff like that. It's pretty cool. Everybody Google it. So yeah, this was a tag team match with wrestlers though. Not as fun as that game. Did you have any thoughts on this tag team match?
I just thought I thought the idea was kind of try to build some heat between Bailey and Gresham, or just kind of keep that story going. Where this match just kind of felt like the whole point. It was just those guys, an exhibition of them trading mat moves until all right, time to go home, because there was no attempt to like, oh, we're here to win, we're here to beat the other guy. It's just all right, let's just keep doing moves. We're gonna pretend to sell the leg for a bit until it's time to start running again. And yeah,
That's right. That's a classic no psychology match. And you can expect it from these guys because we're going to talk about their efforts later on and how there's no fucking psychology in any of it that they do. And they beat Jonathan Gresham. So, like, how many matches this guy even won that didn't include, like, one job guy that he broke his knee and then the guy was fine the next week?
right. And you have the built-in story of, okay, these guys are opponents to the pay-per-view. Something happens. One costs the other guy the match, and they go at it.
Right. Anything could have been better than this. Any level of thought and preparation could have been better than this. Even if, yeah, it's a little more challenging if you have two faces who are just friendly with each other and they'll be like, I would like a match with you, sir. I will accept this match with you, sir. Let's have a fair match, sir, and shake hands and, you know, come out swinging. Like that's how they built this match on BTI. And then there's Santino and Dirty Dango are like, you're gonna team up, and they're like, that's a good idea, and they just walk away. It's like, what, like this? What are these, like? Are these Rod and Todd Flanders here? Like, Iron helps us play. Like, what?
Remember when that episode where Marge helped them or helping them write not Ren and Stimpy, Itchy and Scratchy, and it's like, would you like some lemonade? Yes, I would, please.
Yes, yeah, they're just like on the porch. Yeah, that's basically it. So, yeah, instead of that, we just get a straight up tag team match and Jonathan Gresham takes another fucking L. I'm sure he's loving his time in this company. I'm apparently that issue of PWI 500 is completely lost. It's in a recycling bin somewhere. He doesn't think to pull it up on his phone. Like, he could still say, "Hey, I'm ranked number." What was he even ranked? How could anybody rank Jonathan Gresham high enough that he could use as a bargaining chip? Oh my God, this is so hopeless. And we'll talk more about him later.
Or that any promoters are even listening to that, because they should all know that it's a work.
Yeah, I don't know. Labrat says Speedball is Canadian. I'm not really sure what that has to do with it. But, well, the politeness, I think. That's what I think what he's getting at. So I get that. But, you know.
I mean, yeah, and it works with his character, too, that we've seen built up over the last year.
Right. I'm not complaining about any of that stuff I said about them being nice. I'm complaining that you couldn't still find it's your job to creatively find a way. If you want to book these characters together, even if the shoot reason why that there is even a match is because these guys want to work together, like, okay, but now it's upon you, the writer or whatever, the booker, Jimmy Jacobs, whatever, you now have to give us a compelling reason. And you don't have to reinvent the wheel or come up with the greatest angle ever. I'm just saying, like, if you're going to have these guys even in this match, like where we have to work together to beat an established team, you got to give us something better than a flat finish that could have happened without any explanation. You could have just put this match on cold if that's what you wanted to do. You could have just done that, but no effort whatsoever. I get it. You're a busy guy. Don't have time for coming up with good reasons for things. That's fine. But you can also have two nice babyface characters and tell a story with that too. They don't even have to get mad at each other. But something can happen in the match that would, like, get people interested to see them fight more. Okay?
Yeah, maybe simple little story in the match is all you had to do.
Right. You could have them trying to outdo each other in the match. That's the classic story.
Yep.
Whatever. Look, you're not paying us to book your TV. And until you do, even though we sometimes do it for free, but until you do, we're not just going to give you our ideas. All right. So we get a package for Josh and Rich. I assume this is going to be the same package they use for the pay-per-view because I skipped both of them. I just so
they were.
Yeah, I figured they're not going to make two packages. Now we go to a flashback to BTI. Which that reminds me, there's no Impact flashbacks lately. They haven't been doing that.
Yeah,
You
that's
know.
true. They noticed that. Yeah. Which they really should be trying to find, like, because every month they're coming out with new content. Okay, try to find some way to connect the new content or the old content with the new content to drive, viewers to that and get them to spend money on the network.
Impact Plus. You got your Ultimate Insider memberships or whatever on the YouTube. Like, sell it. But anyway, this is BTI, and nobody's buying that. Giselle is gonna attack Deanna, but then things get a little chilly, Brandon. Yeah,
That's a knee slapper.
it sure is. Slap both knees. It's just like your rich swan. So anyways, yeah. Basically, what I'm saying is that Giselle tried to get revenge on Deanna for the chili thing, and the chili ended up on Jay VDAP. All right, so unfortunate. But then we cut to current time, and Deanna is doing a promo in which she says that the best revenge isn't hot face chili, but it's a broken arm, bitch. Is basically what she says. So if you like to see more Deanna doing promos, you can check out the 1 year anniversary Wrestling with Rip Rogers celebration, where Deanna called in and hung out for a while. I was also on the show, but at a later time. So, but yeah, so here you go. Deanna promo, broken arm bitch. What do you think?
It was all right.
It's all right. She's channeling her inner Brandy Rhodes. Let's see. Next is a beat the clock match with Tommy Dreamer versus Jason Hotch, which is one of the good hands. The one that's not as stout, I guess, is the best way to describe him. And you can really tell what you think of these guys, because this takes about 1 minute and 15 seconds, if I remember correctly, for Tommy Dreamer. That's quite a time to beat. He just picks this guy up and gets him on the top rope for a Death Valley driver in 1 minute and 15. All right, I guess. There you go. Anything else to add there?
Buried.
That's it. Let's take your little limp handshakes and get the fuck out of here.
And I'm probably be saying buried again later on.
Oh, probably so. I mean, after all, 1 minute and 15 is hardly any time at all, and if Bully is gonna beat that, he's gotta really. Whew, I don't know. All right. They show footage from a Joe Hendry meet and greet that took place earlier. Earlier when they didn't say. Just earlier. But yeah, this was a little bit. Now, here's where it gets interesting, because Joe Hendry's character is innately heelish. Like, if you were to look at it in a vacuum, the fact that people enjoy it, well, that's one thing. But are you a heel? Kind of. And he's acting a little bit like a heel here. Like, everybody should just be so pleased to be doing a meet and greet with Joe Hendry at this time, which we all know that the opposite is true. He's lucky that an Impact meet and greet has any people whatsoever showing up at it and actually paying money. So anyway, I like what he's doing here. And if they ever make a change, they won't have to change anything about Joe Hendry. All they have to change is who they're putting him up against. Because he's always been like this. He's always going to be like this. As long as he's doing this version of this gimmick, which is the only thing he should be doing, because it's somewhat unique. But I saw some of that, peeking through the cracks here, like a little bit of his heelish side. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, this would definitely not be a hard one to turn heel. Just get more annoying and irritating and over the top with it, and just like conceited.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I feel like people don't. I feel like people overplay it in wrestling, and I feel like you don't need to. I think you can play this the way Joe Hendry kind of plays it and get a lot more heat than the obvious things where you come out and talk about a local sports team or whatever.
Yeah, definitely. Just it's there.
Right. But anyway, people seem happy to see him and meet him and greet him. So
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, definitely milk as much face out of it as you can before you turn it heel.
next is Taya with the dolls versus Allison Kay with the Marty Bill. I guess I don't know. Singles match. While this is going on, we get a little night vision picture in picture. Lets you know these guys are still locked up. And then we get the classic jump up finish. Marty jumps up, and then they're like, hey, get down from there. And that's just enough for Taya to get hit by Kay's finish, which is the AK something, AK 47. Did they really just call it that?
They did.
It's lame.
Especially after like earlier in the match, she hits this like nasty looking like reverse pile driver that should have been the go home if they're going home with something.
Yeah, guys, everyone, you guys listening, wrestlers, if you have a pile driver in your arsenal somewhere, that's your finish. Can we just stop it? Like, if you're doing a pile driver, you don't have any moves that look better than that. Like, it's going to kill somebody.
Especially if you're doing it from they're going down your backside.
Right. Yeah, it was like, what was that? Like was that the dead eye? Is that what Hangman Page calls it, or whatever? Like,
I think it might. I remember seeing like Frankie Kazarian do something very similar way back in the day.
Yeah, or yeah. Well, whatever. You know what I'm talking about. The point is, if someone's head is getting driven into the mat and their neck is getting compressed through their asshole, that should be your finish. You can't do that to somebody, let them kick out or whatever, and then just turn around and do some little slight variation on a body slam and then expect people to buy it. That's my opinion, but I'm right. Anything else that you saw during this?
I just thought they could have gotten a lot more business done in 5 to 7 and probably use that time for more like pre-tapes and packages to help build the characters and the feud a little bit more.
Yeah. Is that how long this was?
No, I think they went through a commercial.
Oh, good Lord. Well, that's fine. And this was only to just get sort of whet the appetite for the tag team knockouts championship match at No Surrender, which we will of course talk about. Next is the contract signing, where again another couple of friends, Rich Swann and Josh Alexander, signed their little contract, and Santino's like, commenting how this is nice and easy contract signing. And
is that the first time we've seen it? Like, we get there after the contract has already been signed, and that's when the cameras start rolling?
Probably. Maybe not, but, at least in recent memory. And Liz is coming up with the hot news that The Miz will be the host of WrestleMania. So, I don't really know what the point of announcing that is. Especially this far out. It's not going to sell one ticket or get one viewer. But what it can do is set up the opportunity to pair The Miz with an unlikely co-host, which would probably be what I would do if I was in that situation. By the way, I love The Miz in a way because I know he can do anything and get anything over. I just feel like the WWE has completely run out of... Well, they have run creatively bankrupt with him. I'm sure if he had any material whatsoever to work with, that he's definitely... Trust me, The Miz is definitely a lemonade and chicken salad making champion. That's for sure.
Remember the stuff with him and Cena a few years back?
No, but I'm sure it was great.
Oh, yeah, it was like, oh yeah, Miz and Maurice were like really going hard, like ribbing on Cena and Nikki Bella like they were doing like parodies of the reality show.
Oh yeah, so like vaguely. I've definitely, pushed a lot of that stuff out of my brain to make room for other things, but I mean, yeah, it's whatever's bad is usually not the Miz's fault, and if it is, it's because he's trying to get heat and he's doing a good job. But anyway, that's just a good example of a guy that can be really good at what he does, and I just have no interest in seeing him do any of it because that's how the company's made me feel about him. So I have to sometimes. Ding dong. Hello. God, I love ding dong. Hello. It's the best thing ever. Yeah. So anyway, we're at the contract signing though, and this is where wait a second. Was this the one? Was this where Rich Swann cut the promo about not having it? Yeah. He says when he was going to apologize for kicking Josh in the face last week. And Josh said he makes the offhand remark of, again, just a bad, you could have undone Rich's whole promo if he cuts the promo and then at the end, Josh just said something like, well, I mean, that's not what I meant by that, but go ahead. But basically he said, that's all right, man. I know you didn't have it in you. Meaning like, you weren't trying to fucking kill me with that kick. It was an accident. You wouldn't do that to somebody that you call a friend is basically his point. And then Rich is like, whoa. I didn't have it in me, and then he cuts a promo, which is good. A good promo. I like Rich Swann's promos. I will talk about another one later. But this was like, his chance to kind of try to sell the match one more time. And Josh just sits there and listens to him. And then Burt Macklin comes in and interrupts. And he gets into it with Swann. So we've got this gimmick now of Rich Swann just going about his business as somebody else walks in and dares Rich Swann to punch him in the face, and Rich Swann sure enough does. That's like his new gimmick is like, I will punch you in the face if you ask me to, which is fine. I like that gimmick. But yeah. So anything else on that whole thing?
No, I liked it. I mean, add some heat to the Swann and Alexander match, and Swann's been, again, he got great promos when the material and the content he's given is enough for him to sink his teeth in.
Yeah. So following this, we have Diener and Callahan versus Yuya and Kaz. More night vision inserts here, just in case anybody forgot. Like somebody was reaching for their remote control with buttons on it, and like, I'm gonna change the channel here on Access TV. Oh wait, I forgot. Monsters Ball. All right, I'll stick around. That's what happened, right? Obviously.
At least they're threading it throughout the show.
That's right. That's we're giving them the credit on their least amount of effort, which is sad because we do have to do that. We do have to acknowledge that. That's how far society has fallen.
Yeah, you gotta raise the bar a little bit at a time.
That's right. It's reverse limbo. Okay, we're making it easier for you to shimmy under it now. What did I call him? Like a couple weeks ago, I said a beanbag chair felt like he could be a wrestler. You just put on a leather vest and be a wrestler. I got a beanbag chair. I need to make some money with it. I think I'm getting back in the promoting game, guys. But anyway, yeah, this was who cares what this was? This is just so that Yuya and Kaz could get some reps is basically what this was. Because the main story is about, obviously the 7 deadly steps. Which now when you mention that thing about it being like possibly tied to that old Raven storyline, I'm like, I hope this is not what he's been holding on to all these years, because this sucks. But anyway, the finish of this is that Diener drops off the apron and leaves Callahan to drop the fall to Kaz's chicken wing, which he's obviously gotten his chicken wing over, even though I never knew he used a chicken wing for the first 20 years of his career. I'm finding out now. He's a deadly chicken wing expert. Brandon, what are your thoughts on chicken wings, either Kaz's or the delicious kind that you can get from Hooters or other places? And any thoughts on this match as well?
I only take them if they're Bob Backlund approved.
All right, we'll have to get Bob back. Get me Backlund. Another 4-year championship run.
And as far as the match goes, I did not like it. I mean, as far as Diener goes, like, he's supposed to be this mystical, like, cult leader. He should not be taking bumps. He should be, like, untouchable right now.
Yeah, even though you look at him and he's very touchable.
Right, but the aura.
All right, that sounded wrong. Nobody clipped that. All right, go ahead.
And in my opinion, what the thing should have been was, Callahan's working heat, and then once the babyface starts coming back, Diener will tag himself in, take over, and be kind of like, okay, that's how it's done. Tag Sammy back in, and then have him just keep going back and forth with that until eventually Sammy messes up, Diener steps in and cleans up the mess, and that's how you do it.
Yeah. And you had the perfect guy in that, because we know that Uemura is on a learning excursion. So he can be the guy to take advantage of, while Kaz is like, oh, if I could just get in there, I'd fuck both these guys up. Story writes itself. And yet, just got a basic tag match. The beanbag check.
Right, and you have the team or the faction you're trying to establish going under to a makeshift team. Right.
Which, okay, I mean, there's a way to tell that story too. Just not quite this. Hatebot asked if my beanbag chair can bleed. It could bleed packing peanuts or whatever's in there. That's about it. Why did Callahan drop his first name? That's just a gimmick that happens. It started ever since Eric Young was in the... That's why he's called Diener and not Cody Diener. He lost his name. It's how Jake something got called that, because he lost his name. I guess it's a rite of passage to lose your name if you want to be involved in one of these weird bald-headed white dude cults, which I am not a member, despite my appearance. Yeah. There you go. Anything else?
No, I just thought this did a lot of damage to the design. A lot of damage to them.
Which can't afford it, because they're on thin ice as it is. I forgot if you answered the delicious chicken wing question.
Oh.
Your thoughts on chicken wings in general.
Oh, I love them.
Okay.
Love them.
Yeah. I think it's too much work for too little meat myself, but
they got to be decent size.
Yeah. Jerome says, I bet the vet hair flows like a river if he grew it out. Maybe from the sides and the back.
Brother.
Yeah, not so much on top, dude. But yeah. So okay, then we get a Mickey and Masha package. Very nice. Then we get backstage, and Callahan's complaining about his inducting into this cult or whatever. What I took away from this is that Diener says step 5 is about loyalty. So I guess he passed. I don't know what, because he tapped out to the chicken wing. He's loyal. I don't know what that's supposed to mean.
All I got out of this is so Callahan wants to join a group of losers. Because they just seem to keep losing. When's the last time they won a match?
I don't know, but even if they were winning before, they've certainly gone downhill since he's joined. But he did mention one thing I liked, which is the way he said, I don't know if you joining us is a ploy. It still might be, That's kind of what I'm thinking. Why the fuck would he even do this?
Yeah, and
so against his character.
Yeah, and that's cliche and played out. That'd be way too obvious and just oh yeah, saw that coming.
Yeah, and I don't appreciate Impact Wrestling forcing me to acknowledge Sammy Callahan's character, or to try to defend it, especially. Like, how dare you do that? How dare you put me in that position? Anyway, next is the next Beat the Clock challenge match with Bully Ray versus Bhupinder Gujjar. And we get a chain punch, and Bully wins in 48 seconds. So I guess he gets to talk first at No Surrender. Good stakes here. All right. What do you think? Chain punch.
I'm still laughing over the whole like premise of why they're even having this challenge is whoever gets to talk first in a debate. I mean, really?
All right. Especially when we get to the debate and we see, fast forwarding ahead a little bit, that they get a minute each to talk, and that goes back and forth. So it's like, who even cares who goes first if that's not the only time you get to talk? Who cares either way? But yeah. All right. Chain punch. Okay. As we get our last look at the night vision here. And then Dreamer catches up with Gujjar, who tries to apologize. And Dreamer gives him a big pep talk. About how he's going to be the future and he's seen good things in him and all this other stuff he said. He probably gave the same speech to the biscuit sandwich that was there waiting for him when he walked past the rooms that Crazy Steve and Trey Miguel were locked in since the night before. But nonetheless, good for Bhupinder. You know, he seemed to take it well. So there you go.
He's been a really good sport with what they've been doing with him.
Yeah, dropping ladders on his face and stuff like that. Too bad Tommy had already ate the sandwich, Hatebot says. Or either that or Eddie Edwards got there first. But okay, look, Monsters Ball, all right? Monsters Ball. They let the guys out. You know the gimmick. Let them out and they sell the light. Crazy Steve spends a lot of time in the dark, so he should be good with this.
Yeah, because he seemed pretty normal coming out of that.
Mm-hmm. Now, and also, Taurus refused to let them let him out. He had to be the one to let out Crazy Steve, for what that's worth. Now, Trey did almost, and I emphasize almost, he almost came close on his entrance tag timing. So maybe the light deprivation had a positive effect somewhere. Or you can't trust his eyes. You just got to go with the instinct. But how are the lights? Okay, well, there was a couple of things on the show that were pretty ugly. Like in the contract signing room, there was a pink light sitting in there. There was in Deonna Purrazzo's promo, in that room with the empty frames or whatever, they had blue lights all up on there, made the whole room look blue. But at least that had the effect of the room being painted a horrible color, and not so much that there's just one light off to the side that's kind of casting a light on the wall. Not like the pink one in the contract room. And there was probably another instance of it, but it's a little, it wasn't as bad as last week. Let's put it that way. So this, a Monsters Ball match. Well, I'm not going to go for a blow by blow, but I will tell you, in case you're interested, what kind of toys they were playing with in this thing. We got your standard chairs and garbage cans, right? Brandy, you were about to say something?
Yeah, we got some homages to the past. Like there were several like references back to Abyss, which I thought were pretty cool.
Right. Well, one of those. There was a chain, so take that, Bully. You're not the only person that can use a chain. A fork, okay. Staple gun, I think Trey got stapled in the balls, even though I don't think it works like that. You're wearing pants and everything, but whatever. Uh, you got the tacks, which the thumbtacks always come in a classy velvet pouch, just like you get them at the hardware store. Tables, of course, a giant nail, fucking Janice. That was Janice, right?
Yes, it was.
Okay. Because I had the commentary down, so I didn't know if they called it that. But when I saw a 2x4 with a bunch of nails sticking out of it, you know.
And they did call it Janice on commentary.
Okay. And you could run off King and Kodos with that if you had one, even if it just had one nail in it. And then of course you get the plywood plank covered in barbed wire that Crazy Steve eventually goes through, and Trey gets the win on this. I mean, what do you expect? I mean, this is what, as Jim Cornette always says, for the type of people that like this sort of thing, that's the sort of thing these type of people like. So it ain't me, but you basically just grab objects and hit each other with them until it's time to go home, and the crowd goes ooh. So I understand there's an audience for this, and as far as these things go, I've seen worse. So there you go. What about you, Brandon? Any thoughts on this Monsters Ball?
I mean, I thought it was decent enough. I thought Trey came out of it looking better and like a tougher competitor. I think that's the idea behind it, or even if it was intentional or not, I think that he came out looking much better and character development and a tougher wrestler.
Well, even if that's true, this is no Cactus Jack versus Randy Orton from Backlash
Right.
04.
Right. It felt like that's what they were going for, but it's like not quite there.
Yeah. Why did Crazy Steve wear red face paint when he was going to bleed? Hatebot asks. Good question. Why did you? Also, he likes when Crazy Steve gently placed a trash can on top of Trey Miguel's head. Yeah, you don't want to, because you don't want to dent that cheap ass trash can before you actually hit it. So you got to be careful.
Of course, with Crazy Steve's character, I could see him doing that as like a sarcastic, smart ass thing.
Sure. Yeah. There's he's got that out at least. But yeah. But it's something that I guess they couldn't find space on the card at No Surrender for, so they're giving it to us here. And I don't know. It's like I guess I don't really know what the psychology would be. Are you saying, hey, you like stuff like this? Well, we're going to have a stupider version on the No Surrender. But, how could anybody know that at the time? So, yeah, couldn't tell you, but here we go. That's your main event, and that's your go home. And you went home, and you questioned your life decisions after this. Not probably way down on the list was whether you're going to watch No Surrender or not after watching this. It didn't, to me, even though they addressed some of the angles that are going to be on No Surrender, which we're going to talk about momentarily, but I don't think, like we were discussing with the whole Jonathan Gresham and Speedball match, which was on the countdown show, by the way. You had opportunities there to build some intrigue, didn't really do it. You had Rich Swann cut a nice promo to Josh Alexander and tie in Burt Macklin about he's going to possibly be the number one contender coming out of that. But, then there was just a lot of other stuff that really didn't help. Like, the design plays no part in No Surrender, if I remember, except for the one match. Actually, that's not true. They play a part in the opening match. And they didn't really. I guess they didn't really. I don't know. I don't know what I'm trying to say. I mean, the stuff they did. Do you feel like it was? I can't even put myself in the headspace of like, do people even use go home shows to decide whether they want to watch a pay per view or not? Like, I can't understand that mentality. So I need other people to tell me. Did it work? Did Impact Wrestling get anybody to watch No Surrender? Chat, you can help out. But Brandon, what do you think? Do you think they were able to? Do you think that they put on a quality go home?
Nah, I mean, it just felt like another regular episode of Impact. Like nothing to really. I mean, there was some final hype for some of the stuff, like Mickey and Masha, Alexander Swan, and a little bit of some stuff with the Decay with the going into Kaz and Khan, but man, they didn't do a whole lot. Like this felt like it could have been a week, 2 weeks out, 3 weeks out, and it would have been the same thing.
Yeah, I agree. I don't want to come down on it too hard, but you know, I don't know. So No Surrender from Las Vegas. Now you were talking about earlier. You said that we got to accidentally see David Penzer doing some, some warm up stuff for the crowd,
Or
sales pitches.
yeah, the audio of it, I should say. There wasn't really much camera. Like it was dark, but you could hear him hyping the crowd. All right, guys, come out we really love to see you for all 3 nights. We got these packages for all 3 nights. Come out and see us. All right, we're about to go live. Everybody get ready. Let's get loud.
And this was this before everything, or was this just after the countdown?
Before the countdown show even started.
Okay. So I didn't see that because I watched the YouTube countdown show. Yeah, and the reason I like to do that is so I can see what the people are saying in the chat archive. Kind of like here. You got a live chat that we can interact with. So I'm looking at seeing what people are saying about the show. And, that's why I like to do that. But what were you about to say?
Yeah, this is like on their actual Impact network.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay. Well, if I had watched, I go and watch this YouTube thing, then I go to watch it somewhere else, let's say, and they put up the whole thing even with the countdown. So I probably could have saw exactly what you saw, because I'm sure that's where they took it from. But because I opted to watch this YouTube version, they were gonna, even if that happened on the YouTube feed, they cut that out. Like they would have cut that out and re-uploaded it. But regardless, that's not the only issue. Like I'm watching this on the YouTube thing, and it's telling me that it's in 720p. But to my eyes, it looks like 480i. Like I can see the interlacing happening in real time on this feed. Like everybody looks like they're in like a Max Headroom style grid. Like the scan lines, you could see them. So it was kind of ugly there, and it would only kind of get worse. But they started out with Giselle Shaw versus Deonna Purrazzo. I mean, it's a match. They had a match. Savannah Evans comes out, attacks after Jay does the old jump up. So we get a jump up part 2 from the Go Home show, and then that allows Giselle to hit the denouement and get the win, and then Savannah leaves with those two. So that flies in the face a little bit of the idea that Giselle Shaw breaks people up. Well, maybe they do, but maybe she's going to start collecting people now. Who knows? Maybe this is all a grand plan, and she just wants to be a Pokemon master and catch them all. But she couldn't do that when they're all teamed up together. So, Yeah, Giselle versus Deanna. Any thoughts on that?
I have to confess, I didn't watch any of the pre-show stuff.
Oh my goodness gracious! So you just David Penzer actually tuned you out of the pre-show.
A little bit. It's kind of like, wait, what's going on? Is this actually airing?
Okay. Um. Well, then we'll just move on to the next pre-show match, which is the Octopus versus Speedball match. I wrote down zero psychology match because these guys are just doing moves at each other. That's it. There is no story. There's barely any technique. There is a lot of go ahead and kick me as hard as you can type thing. Like the spot where you would trade forearms or trade chops or whatever the thing is replaced with Speedball just kicking Jonathan Gresham as hard as he can in the chest, and then Jonathan Gresham just going, with a chop. Like, I think regardless of whether you're tough, he's going to come out on the winning end of that one. A leg is bigger than an arm. But yeah, so, whatever. They did a victory roll thing. He tried to do some sort of victory roll and ended up pinning Mike Bailey with it. And it didn't look good because it looked like he should have been able to get out of it because they didn't. It just didn't. It wasn't clean. It wasn't a clean looking move. But they went with it because that's the finish. So they definitely, didn't have a match that I liked. They didn't have a lot of time. They only had. They went about 10 minutes or so. But what I was noticing is Jonathan Gresham, at around the 6 or 7 minute mark, I'm noticing this guy is like almost pouring sweat. And they haven't done that much. I also noticed Jonathan Gresham is like, we all know what he looks like, right? We all know who he's, married to or whatever. I'm concerned about his health at this point. It's not a good look when you're sweating that much after doing that little for that short a time. Not to say that the guys didn't work hard, because they did. And not to say that you can't break a sweat in a 10-minute match, because you can. But I don't think that's why he was sweating. And if you've seen his transformations recently, because he can't get any bigger vertically, he's trying to get bigger horizontally. And I'm worried that he's going to have a fucking heart attack in the ring if he keeps this shit up. You can see like his stomach. He's got great abs, but I can see his stomach is starting to distend somewhat, which is like the sign that your organs are getting bigger, because of growth hormone or whatever the fuck else that he's putting in his body. And yeah. Also, while he's selling on the mat, he's doing that thing like where you take the trunks and like pull them up like you're trying to hide your fat stomach, which he doesn't have a fat stomach, but he's still doing it, which, he probably has some sort of body dysmorphia that's making him think he's fat or something, and he's got to keep doing this. It's little signs like that I see, like, it gives me cause for concern. So I think that's more important to talk about than any match that he's having.
And to address what Jerome said I hope somebody is. The problem is a lot of the younger and newer guys these days is they're not listening. They are just not listening. They think they know better than the people who came before them. They think that they've been trained to believe that the older veterans, the people who have been there and done that, are old, bitter, and out of touch and don't know what they're talking about.
Hey, some of them might be, but not all of them are. And you got to know how to listen. Well, we all don't listen. People try to tell us things our whole lives, and we either think that they don't have any valid advice to give, or we think that it doesn't apply to us because we live different lives, or whatever the case may be. And then when we get older, we all wish that we would have listened to at least some pieces of advice that we'd gotten earlier. It would have saved us a lot of trouble, money, time, whatever. So I
I
don't
know
know.
I know one lesson I was taught very early on was even if like the person if they're even if you know they're giving you bad advice, you still smile, nod, and be respectful.
Sure. Yeah. But yeah, I'm just I don't want to see it. Look, it's not that Jonathan Gresham doesn't have anything to offer. He does. Um, but being like
But
being the
we need him around to offer that.
yes, and being the jack guy, you're not gonna. You're doesn't matter what. You're not gonna be as jacked as some of the other jack guys. You're never gonna be a big guy, and octopuses don't walk around jacked anyway. So Jesus, look at Zack Sabre Jr. You know what I mean? Like, and even he looks like he's 30 pounds heavier than he was when he started. Um, but he didn't. He clearly didn't use any artificial means to gain that weight. He probably just started eating more, um, squash or whatever a vegetarian or a vegan eats. I don't know, but he did fill out, and he's still skinny. So, but that fits what he's trying to do. Um, and Jonathan Gresham, like, you're not going to be Mr. Universe, and I think he thinks that is the reason why, like, he's not further along than he is in his career. He probably thinks like it's because they don't like his look, so he's got to get jacked, he's got to get muscle, he's got to look this certain way or whatever. And even if that's true, that people look at that, and if it works, if that's what gets him bookings, I doubt the impact is falling for that. Like, oh, Jonathan Gresham's a little more muscular than he used to be. Let's hire him. I don't think that's why they hired him. So, but anyway, you know how it is when you have those kind of image issues, which is definitely a problem if you're getting in a cosmetic business. Um, then you you can't even be talked to, because that's something that's going on in your mind, right? You don't even see yourself the same as other people physically see you in the mirror. So hopefully he figures it out and doesn't die. Um, but just I'm just noticing these early warning signs here.
Yeah,
Um,
because remember, yeah, I mean, that's not thinking about it. Remember, an Ultimate Warrior died, like the in the Hall of Fame and the WrestleMania and the Raw as
oh
well.
yeah.
Like he was sweating out of breath,
Mm-hmm.
and then the next day just drops dead.
Yep. So Lab Rat says he was in the top 500. He doesn't need that stuff. Damn right. You're damn right, Lab Rat. And trust Lab Rat. He's had all that stuff tested on him already. He'll tell you you don't need it. Um, I hope you didn't. I didn't hope you. I hope you didn't break your keyboard typing that from how jacked you are from all the stuff they tested on you, Lab Rat. But anyway, so then we get into the proper No Surrender pay per view now. Now that we've gotten the opening acts out of the way, we get footage of Josh and Rich arriving at the building, and then we get Santino, and he's gonna get in the ring and welcome us to No Surrender, and he's gonna do the intro for Frankie Kazarian, which he calls his first signing as director of authority here in Impact, and then he joins the desk for commentary. And then we get Kaz versus Khan. Just Khan. He's not even big anymore. Just Khan. Uh,
Which
yeah.
honestly is better because big never works for people.
No, it doesn't. And yet they keep trying. All right, Kaz versus Khan. What do you think about this one?
I mean, it was all right, but it's just this whole faction is buried. They are so buried.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Well, speaking of that, How do you know? And we're talking about Santino here, who's sitting there on commentary. How do you like Callahan doing the spot, the old hit the wrong guy with the chair spot, and the director is just sitting over there 20 feet away, looking right at it, like blatantly watching the design interfere in the match, which I presume is one of the reasons that he's out here at all, like to be some sort of a backup for Kazarian. So now you buried. I mean, you don't have to bury the ref because he can get distracted, but you buried the director because he watched it all happen and did nothing about it. You know, yeah. So that happens, and then just for a little extra fakeness, Frankie hits the slingshot cutter, and gets the win. So you know, just couldn't make it any more fake. You had to do the slingshot spot with this guy that's like twice your size. It's great. Diener's not happy about it. I wouldn't be either, but for different reasons. I don't know if Diener actually. Do you think? Okay. Do you think so? Diener's an agent. Do you think that he agents all the matches that the designer involved with? Or would you say, as a conflict of interest, put a different agent on that and let Diener agent other people's matches?
I would imagine Impact probably has somebody else agent it simply because of conflict of interest. Like there was, I can actually speak from experience. Like the main company I used to wrestle for, one of the active booker or one of the active wrestlers was on the booking committee, and somebody else he would always have somebody else book his stuff so that way he would keep himself out of it and not get conflict of interest.
Yeah. Well, I don't know if that's happening here, but if it is, then Diener sucks and he needs to go back to the drawing board in terms of finishes because you just hit a 1-2 punch of two stupid things back to back that you shouldn't have done. So yeah. All right, next is Myers with Gia and no music underneath. He hopes that Moose humiliates Hendry like Hendry humiliated Cardona, which Cardona is not here, and that's his business, according to Brian Myers. I will say that Gia looked cute.
She did.
That's all I got on that one. Then we get a package, and then we get Hex versus the Death Dolls. And like you were saying, it wouldn't be. We both said, earlier, this wouldn't be a pay-per-view without audio issues, and it came through here again. The audio commentary from the Tom and Matthew definitely dipped several levels lower than it had been. So this is where I started noticing that.
Yeah, it's like, did somebody like hand bump the mixer or something and take the volume down?
It could have been. I mean, who knows? But there's always something with these guys. But other than that, the match was a straightforward retention of the titles. Like there was no gimmick, there was no fuzzy finish. This was just like, you lost. Get the fuck back to NWA. It's basically what this was. And I guess, Allison Kay getting a win on the previous show was some sort of sugar to help the medicine go down. Because they didn't protect him here.
Nope. Yeah, it was just straight up beat. All right, they go over next.
It didn't even take that long. What
No.
was this, like 5 minutes or something? I don't remember.
7 maybe?
It's hard for me to tell because I'm watching it at twice the speed sometimes. I don't watch everything at twice the speed, but this one, as soon as I saw it, I was like, yep, I could save some time here. So, Jerome agrees that Gia is cute. It's Gia, Javi. Gia is cute. On this show, at least. She's cute. All right, package then. Here's what you've all been waiting for. The Digital Media Championship defended in a dot combat match. I don't have any muffins here. I'll just say that right out. And Buckshot Kid, who's not here right now, at least not, if he is, he's lurking. He told me I wouldn't like this. He said it was the worst match on the show. It might be the worst match on the show. Might. I don't know. There was that fatal 4-way. But, so he already warned me without telling me what would happen. And then I saw a little clip of something. Scrolling through Instagram, and then I was like, all right, let me scroll past this before I see too much. Larry's got his popcorn. Well, let's just run through it, shall we? Hendry does his standard promo. He comes out, his full entrance. They're trying to say the champion's prerogative to come out first. Like, when did the people start using that as a reason why you do things backwards? But anyway, I guess it's as good a cover up as anything else. So Hendry comes out, does his thing. We get the Moose entrance. And then when he gets to the part where he'd do his normal ring pose, he turns around and jump starts the match by attacking Joe Hendry with his robe on still. And then they do the whole, are you okay to start the match? And then I guess he is, because he believes and we believe. So yeah. So they start the match. So this is just, like the Monsters Ball match. This is just all right, what do we have that we can, use as objects? But because it's .combat, you have things that are, I guess, related to the internet somewhat. I don't know.
Or like somebody went to a Radio Shack and cleared it out.
Yes. Like, what are you guys throwing away? Give me that. So yeah. So from under the ring, Moose starts by grabbing a chair and a keyboard and a Sega Dreamcast. Not in that order. So we've got those in play. Then they do a spot where okay, the next note I have is about the Uranage through the table, or not through the table. Let's put it that way. Moose picked Joe up and tried to put him through the table, and Joe slid off the table and kind of went toward the guardrail. I don't think it was as bad as it could have been. But Moose, I love you, man, but you've got to set people down squarely, like when you do those type of things. Like, that was a little bit careless on his part, because he kind of threw him, which it's not, in any of these things where you're putting a guy through a table, you're not actually throwing them through the table. You are planting them through the table. And so they should be squared up with it, perpendicular, whatever, to it, and then just set them down. Don't throw them forward. Don't give them any room to slide off, because without that momentum of setting them down straight up and down, that's why he flew off the edge of the table and could have hit his head on the guardrail.
You're basically supposed to guide them down, let gravity do the work.
Exactly. So just, you see a lot of things like this when people are rushing through stuff. Now, most of the time, I would say that Moose is not a guy that rushes things. But this time he did. So just be very careful when doing things like that. All right. Then they did a spot where, as Jerome was asking, it was a Dreamcast. It was the white Dreamcast. It was just the classic white Dreamcast. Then they did the spot where, speaking of the Dreamcast, they did the spot where Moose, he does the whole,
Star-Lord wind up, yeah.
Yeah, that thing. And then Joe Hendry grabs a Dreamcast and just flips the lid. He hits the button and the lid comes up slowly. I guess flipping off the Dreamcast, which
Yep.
that doesn't do anything. Now, if you really wanted to hurt a guy in one of these matches, if you had the Dreamcast plugged in and were spinning the disc, and then you opened it and then tried to cut somebody with the spinning disc, that'd be more dangerous than fucking Janice. But there's no way to actually do that in the confines of this match. But anybody that's owned a Dreamcast knows. You let that shit stop spinning before you try to pick it up. Yeah. So then we get an escalation of radio control cars, in which Joe Hendry finds a little toy, like Fisher Price looking car, and he drives it towards Moose, and Moose just kicks the car out of the ring when it hits him in the foot. And then later on, he finds a bigger remote control car, and he tries to get it to work, and it doesn't. So he just picks up the car and just throws it right into Moose's crotch as he's like laying prone. You know, they were setting up the spot where his legs are open and he's going to drive the car into his balls, and the car doesn't go. So he just picks it up and just hucks it into Moose's balls.
Right at his dick. Toy car to the dong.
Yep. So there was that. We get the velvet pouch again. The Crown Royal bag, as Jerome Hall pointed out. Except not purple. It's this black velvety bag, and it's full of keycaps from a keyboard, which has already been smashed across Moose's back at this point. But now we've got more keys, more extra keys to replace the ones that, you know, came out of the keyboard. And Moose eventually got superplexed and choke bombed into these keycaps, which could not have been comfortable in the slightest.
No.
Yeah, you might almost want the tax at that point. Almost. They pulled out. They did another spot where Moose went to go get a chair, and then Hendry went to the other side of the ring and got a gaming chair. They failed to get like a Razer sponsorship or, you know, any of the, or like Gamer Gear or what. I don't know who all makes gaming chairs, but they had an opportunity here and they blew it.
Dude, I had to do double takes. I'm like, wait a minute, hang on. So that looks just like my chair.
Yeah, that's true. It did kind of look like that chair. Which brand is your chair?
That's a good question. I actually don't know.
Oh, all right. Well, neither did Impact, so they blew it. They blew another chance to fund this. Jerome says at least not the skateboard wheels. Yeah, that's true.
Ooh.
Yeah. Ask Samoa Joe about that one, or ask Darby Allin. But yeah. All right. Now in the absolute highlight, I'm sure for everybody, this is where the people probably want to see me do the react video, the YouTube react video, where I make the face and the thumbnail and all this other stuff. So they get a VR headset, and he puts it on Moose, and all of a sudden Moose just starts dancing and grabbing imaginary cakes. And then we finally get this, we get the display up on the screen so we can see what Moose is seeing. And he's kind of like, I guess there's just some,
Club
I don't know
scene.
what, yeah, I know it's a club scene with some skanks, but I'm like, where do you get this like free, like public domain footage of this club? You know what I mean? With like two Alicia Edwards shaped women, like, just kind of dancing, and what would Moose even be grabbing, because they look like they kind of just weren't. Anyway, you know, the point is, somewhere the feed switches to the dancing Moose video, so we can see that Moose is now looking at it, and he stops groping the imaginary asses and starts selling it. And then you know, there you go. So that was the big spot I think that everybody wanted to hear me talk about. Listen, what you already know what I'm going to say. Well, you should. Every one of you should know what the first thing I'm going to say is. It's like, you have the technology that you can broadcast Moose's VR on the screen for everybody, but you can't stabilize the announcer's audio. Are you kidding? That's what I'm
Yeah,
supposed
it's
to
like,
buy that?
yeah, you got that complicated thing, correct, but you can't get your audio right.
Yes, exactly. And also, what VR is this that's just using real footage? Have you seen the VR porn and stuff like that they've had?
I have
It don't
not.
look like this. It don't look like this. And I trust me, I don't know from using VR porn, but I've seen the stuff that people have used, and it's weird. And it don't look like this. So yeah. But anyway, this was the shits with 4 question marks. Yes, it was. Um. So there you go. All right, now I will now here's where I will put Moose over, because even in the midst of all this ridiculous bullshit and his sloppiness with the table spot earlier, he actually did something very smart. It was wasted in this match, but it showed that Moose has good instincts for wrestling, in case anybody had any doubt, because this is the kind of thing that could only have been done on the fly, what I'm talking about. Um, so, the finish is Moose is supposed to run Joe Hendry up to the ropes for the O'Connor roll off the ropes and pull the trunks, and then that's going to reverse, and then Joe Hendry's going to pull the trunks and beat Moose. That's the finish. Well, they started doing the spot where Moose gets the waist lock and he's running, and you could see Joe Hendry, like, I don't know what he was confused about, but he like changed directions and where he was running. Like, he started to run toward the corner, and then changed course and faced the ropes. Like, oh yeah, I got to come off the ropes. You all know what. Am I explaining this right, Brandon? You know the spot, right? You know the spot, right? Where you grab the guy in a waist lock. He runs toward the ropes and he tries to hook the ropes, but either he's able to hook the ropes successfully and you roll off, but the guy that's running you into the ropes in Moose's position, he's going for an O'Connor roll. Okay? And he's using the ropes to bounce you off the ropes to get momentum to roll you backwards. That's the psychology of the move. That's the execution of the move. Use the ropes for momentum, bounce the guy off, roll over him, and pin him. Okay?
While the other guy tries to hold on and throw you off.
Yes. So, but they didn't run to the ropes. So, because of, I don't know what Joe Hendry was doing, but somehow this didn't work out. So what Moose did, instead of trying to force it and just run to the ropes anyway, he just stopped short and pulled Joe Hendry back and did the O'Connor roll from the standing position. Like, rather than go through the awkwardness of trying to run after he'd already changed direction or whatever. Like, as soon as he saw it was going on, he was like, fuck it, we'll just do an O'Connor roll from here. Rolled him up, then they did the finish or whatever. I don't like the finish, especially not in this type of match. This fucking sucked. And I certainly don't like that Moose is losing again, but whatever. If it prevents him being in any more matches that could end up anything like this, I guess I'm fine with him not winning the belt. So there. This is the real main event of the Impact Attack, is me breaking down this match in more minute detail than I usually go into, just so I can paint a picture for anybody that hasn't watched it. And if I don't do this for every match, the reason is not necessarily because I didn't watch it. It's because it wasn't worth recapping for you and you didn't miss anything. So let's get that straight. But after all that, Brandon, I want to hear what you thought about this, basically from top to bottom, in concept, execution, and in any of the minutia that went on during this fiasco.
I mean, I thought it was funny. I thought it was entertaining. I thought this was, for what it was what it needed to be. Moose is not the guy to put in this spot.
True.
Granted, what his contributions were funny and entertaining, not for his character at this time.
Yes. I'm sure he justifies it to himself by saying it's adding a dimension to his character, which may be true, but it's not a dimension we want. I don't think.
At least not at this time.
No. And there's a way to be in matches like this where you act like you're above being in matches like this. But the VR headset was too much.
Yeah,
Sorry.
that was when it would, again, on its own, it was funny. I liked it, but as far as like his character goes, no.
To paraphrase another wrestler that's probably a little famous, that sounds like a great idea. Just not a great idea for the Moose. So,
Yes.
So, yep. There you go. Anything else? Lab rat, but Moose was going for a belt. LOL. All right, you're right. What can I say? This was perfect. Colin says, I made the main event of the show. Yeah, and much like the WWF main events in the 80s, it went on at midpoint, and you still got the rest of the show to go, and you got a tag team match with like Hacksaw Jim Duggan and the Rougeau brothers versus Ken Patera and the Bolsheviks. So get ready for that. Yeah. So anyway, yeah. Anything else to add to that whole thing? No. Okay.
No.
All right. Next is Mickey with Gia and no music underneath. She does a promo and then gets out of there. I give this promo a 9 out of 10. Reason why she didn't get that one extra point, because it's stock. Like, this is any promo that any wrestler would cut anywhere at any time. But it gets 9 more points because she did it as well as you could do one of these promos. One of these stock wrestling promos. She named everybody involved. She addressed the question that was actually asked of her. And she went home on a, not necessarily a world, world-changing line, but just a snappy enough line that you were like, all right, go Mickey. So, good promo from Mickey James. Anything to add to Mickey James's promo? That's right.
No.
There's nothing to add to it. It was perfect,
No.
except for it just being basic.
Exactly, yes.
So, how many times did she look at the ground for her lines? None that I remembered. Then we get a package, and then we get our live Busted Open with Dave LaGreca introing the guys. Can I just say this real quick? I don't have any particular feeling one way or the other on David LaGreca, but, I don't think we needed to hear from him that much. Like, he got his entrance. I don't think we needed that. Can we just come up on the ring with him already in it? Like, because making this guy walk down there and getting a minimal reaction from anybody, like, that's just embarrassing for him and for us. We don't really care what he has to say, so he can just skip right to the part where the other guys come out, I think. What do you think?
I mean, yeah, I could have easily started with him in the ring, introduced both Tommy and Bully, and just be the moderator. That's what he's there for.
Yeah, and if he was if he had any level of like entertainment involved to him, then I would be like, yeah, okay, sure. But he didn't do anything here. And since I've never listened to 1 second of Busted Open, unless it was like a clip or something, and the clip certainly wouldn't have been him, I don't know what his show is like, but Colin listens to it all the time, so maybe he can answer. But you're just wasting our time here. So basically, the way this goes down is Bully doesn't say anything for his first minute that he got, except for, I'm sorry. And then Tommy Dreamer gets a minute to ask him why he says, just sorry, after all this bullshit. And then when Bully gets another minute, then he says, can we just waive off the time limit? So what are we doing? And then he gives a heartfelt speech about, how he gave a heartfelt speech about watching the A&E special on the NWO, and he got sad that Kevin Nash was doing an interview without Scott Hall in his life, and he doesn't want to be angry at Tommy Dreamer anymore. That's his fucking promo. Like, he's doing the life's too short. we don't have to be friends, but we don't have to do this anymore speech. Which, hey, I'm glad you put over the WWE A&E special. You know, Jay Briscoe just died not too long ago. You know, that could have been something that made you think life was too short. But I'm glad you didn't use that, and I'm glad you used this other thing, because the next thing he does after everything's supposedly settled is more fake wrestling shit where he grabs coffee and throws it in Tommy Dreamer's face, because Tommy Dreamer in his promo says, "I know how hard it is for someone like you to say something like that, so let's just move on." And he takes exception to the "something like you" part. Not at the time though. His face doesn't change, doesn't move one iota when Tommy Dreamer says that line. He just calmly waits for Tommy Dreamer to finish everything, then calmly grabs coffee and calmly throws it in his face, and then starts, then he pushes Dave LaGreca down, and then he punches Tommy with the coffee pot, and then and he starts saying, like, "What do you mean by that? What do you mean?" It starts to turn into Batman versus Superman here. Like, "How do you know that name? What do you mean by a guy like me?" This is what he keeps yelling over and over again. And then he gets his catchphrase in, "Do you know who I am?" Because this is real. And then to add that extra layer of fakeness, which they just like to do. It's like a little fake cherry on top of all the fake, the fake shit that they do. They play Bully's music, like, as he just glowers over both of them menacingly. I guess someone in the back is like, "Wow, this is serious. Hit that music that starts with the sound of a bomb dropping." Get the fuck out of here with this shit, man. Quit wasting my motherfucking time. What do you mean, you people? Exactly. Yeah. What do you think?
Yeah, it was... You nailed it.
Yeah. All right. Just, there you go. I mean, I'm just saying, like, if you're gonna bring real shit into this, stop doing the fake shit on top of it. Just stop. Just stop. Now, on the other hand, we go from this to Rich Swann with Gia and no music underneath. They get interrupted. He gets interrupted by Bert, of course. And then Rich Swann cuts an absolutely natural, realistic promo right to Bert's face and walks off like a mic drop. But without doing the thing like, "I'm actually dropping the mic." Like, he didn't have some, like, "I'm trying too hard, go home" line or anything. He just responded, told Bert exactly how it was, and walked off. It was absolutely perfect. It's how you're supposed to do something. And Bully Ray can sit out there and talk about real things all he wants and then go right into fake wrestling. Great. And then what? A match? Like the match we didn't get on this show? And you're going to have a match with Tommy Dreamer? Like, that's what we're going to get excited to see or pay to see or whatever? No. Now,
Yeah.
Are we going to get excited and pay to see, Rich Swann versus Burt Macklin? Probably not. But that's beside the point. That's because there's nothing that anybody can do to want to see that match. But I guarantee you, whatever Rich Swann did here, it was as good as he could have done or anyone could have done. So I loved it. What about you?
No, I'm liking where they're going with Swan and what he's been doing lately. I mean, the stuff with him and Alexander feels like it's real. Like, you could see two friends having this kind of thing where you got that one friend who feels like he has something he has to prove, and and the friend who's the champion is like, "Well, I can't really, go easy on you, and it's gonna hurt me to hurt you."
Yep. I give it up to Rich Swann. Rich Swann has cut two great back-to-back promos, and we had we showed exactly how classic wrestling promo was done by Mickey James too. So I'll take that. I'll take people doing wrestling but making it real for wrestling over trying to put reality into it and then exposing it completely right after. Like I'll always take classic wrestling over that. However, what I won't take is a 4-way match with with Macklin and Brian Myers and PCO and Heath. I won't take that. I absolutely won't. You got any thoughts on this match?
I mean, it was a match. I mean, they got their business done with Eddie and PCO, and I think it just, Brian Myers and who else was in the match?
Heath.
Heath, yeah, just
See?
just bodies, exactly.
I literally just named the 4 people in this match and you already forgot. So how are we supposed to care? God damn. Anyway. Yeah, Fat Eddie hits PCO with the shovel and then Burt hits the KIA on Heath. I did see that at least.
I think they're going to flip the belt to Macklin.
Think so, huh? That's going to be that. Well, speaking of burials and speaking of, leaving guys in deserts, and that's going to be the final nail in this company's coffin if that guy gets the belt. But anyway, yes. Hatebot is already asking here in the chat, where did Macklin come from? Surely there's some AEW mid-carder that could do more with his spot. Which I understand the sentiment there. Macklin was one of the guys that wasn't fired for Gunner making a pro-Trump tweet right in the middle of, Black Lives Matter protests. When nobody needed to care about what was going on as far as the president was concerned, Gunner decided he wanted to tweet how proud he was of the president. And then the other 2 guys, Macklin and who was the other guy in that group? Some other white dude, of course. Oh, the guy from what were they called? The guy that wasn't Buddy Murphy. The guy that didn't work out. Wesley Blake or something.
Yeah,
like
Wesley
that.
Blake, yep.
Yeah, they were like, what the fuck? Don't do that. And then those guys, they were called the Forgotten Sons.
Yep, it was Macklin, Gunner, and Wesley Blake.
Right. And so that's what they were doing in NXT, and that gimmick sucked too, because it's just like, hey, we were, their whole gimmick was I guess all 3 of them were in the military at some point. I never knew if Wesley Blake was or not, but Macklin, yes, and Gunner, yes, like we knew about that. So I assume that Wesley must have been in. I don't know why they would have a guy in a gimmick that didn't have a background, but regardless, they were just doing like a weird biker gang thing where their whole point was, after we came back from our tours of Afghanistan or whatever, because it couldn't have been any other war, they're not old enough. They're like, the government didn't care about us and nobody cared about us. Nobody, so they're the Forgotten Sons or whatever. That was their whole gimmick. And I'm just like, what are you talking about? The WWE signed you and is paying you. They didn't forget you got jobs. Like, and they gave you a job and this is what you do with your TV time. You complain how you were forgotten. Now I know it's kayfabe, but that's my point. If you have a gimmick like that, it doesn't make sense if you work for the WWE. Like, they're a pretty big company. I don't think you're that forgotten. So what are you talking about? Yeah, and then all that other stuff happened. So, Hatebot does not remember the Forgotten Sons. Exactly. 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 That was their point. My God, you validated their gimmick, Hatebot. But yeah, no, it's stupid. And they barely even wrestled. But that's where he came from originally. And then, yeah, Deanna got a job here at Impact. And then I guess they probably met when because they were probably there at the same time. Deanna was probably still in NXT at that time when Macklin was there. They probably met and started dating then. And then he probably followed her over to Impact eventually. So I assume that. I don't keep up on these people's personal lives all that much, but anyway. So there's your refresher course on the Forgotten Sons and Macklin.
Oh yeah, yeah. Here's a picture of constantly a picture of him. He's got longer hair. It's actually got like in a ponytail. He's got facial hair, like full facial hair.
They were basically like, all right, well, what if Sons of Anarchy but military? That's what
Yeah.
their whole thing was that they were doing.
Yep. Yeah, because I can
So,
see. Yeah, 'cause I can see Gunner right there in the middle of this picture.
mhm, yeah. But there's only so much you can do with something like that. And then Gunner kind of killed it for him, I think. So because they each after that they each put out tweets of their own letting letting people know that it's like the views of this fucking guy are not necessarily like the views of us. So anyway,
Yeah, if they were smart, they would have ran with that and did something else with it.
right, but they're not, and nobody wanted to see that at the time either. I don't think.
Yeah, that would have been really bad timing.
Yeah. That's the thing. Like, this is something that Ben always talks about. Like, Ben is a huge proponent of trying to take real world events and draw money by getting heat with them. And that would only work in a world where people still believed wrestling was real. But when you have every wrestling company doing their level best to make you, like, to remind you at every step that this is the phoniest shit that there ever was, then when you do an angle with reality, it's just in bad taste. That's all it is. It's not money. It's not drawing. It's just bad taste. That's all. If we were back in the 80s, yes. You know, even the 90s maybe. Yes. When you've got AEW announcing that they're going to have a reality show that airs right after Dynamite that exposes everything about wrestling, like right after you just watch the fake wrestling, now you can, or when you hold press conferences where you talk about things like they're real, when you just were trying to tell people, like, it's all, you're telling people it's all a show, even though you just put on a show. It's the Starbucks cup in Game of Thrones.
You remember when they used to have reaction and it was played off like it was real, but like what just happened on the show was real, not like it was a fake TV show, but like what just happened on the show is reality.
Yes. Yeah. It's so there's no point in trying to get real heat anymore. It's just try to do things that piss people off in general, you know. Things that never go out of style, arrogance, those type of things. But yeah, trying to really bring something racial into it when all you're going to do is have a phony wrestling match, just poor taste. That's all. I don't know what that comment is supposed to mean. I'll read it. They complain about his opinions, but 20 years ago, Tiger Singh was doing kielbasa swallowing contests on TV. I don't know who they is. I don't know who his opinions are. Or you mean, who's complaining about Ben's opinion? Is that what you mean? Ben Hameen's opinion? Does WWE complain about him? That shit was stupid too. The only thing more offensive than that was, watching a Tiger Ali Singh match, which I hope you guys have never had the displeasure of having to do. But he's one of the worst wrestlers I've ever seen in my life. Nation of Domination disagrees. I mean, Nation of Domination were just saying true things, and that was getting them heat as a heel faction. They should have been the biggest baby faces in the world, if you want to get real with it. But and I also don't think they were anybody's favorite wrestlers, and I don't know if they drew any real money either. So I don't know what that comment means either, but I like all those guys. Who doesn't like Ron Simmons and Mark Henry and D'Lo and The Rock? And
I thought PG-13 was great as hype man for them. Like kept them from being like less annoying, and they actually added to an act.
Yeah. We all remember the rap. All right, which one of us is going to do it? All right, I'm not doing it. But yeah. Yeah. It's funny. The original Nation of Domination, wasn't it just Farouk, Savio, and Crush?
Yep, and it was just and it's a rant. D'Lo was part. Yeah, D'Lo and Clarence Mason, and then a bunch of people just in the background.
That was when D'Lo was just a guy like in a suit standing back there. I did mention D'Lo. What are you talking about? I literally mentioned D'Lo, didn't I?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. I almost forgot to mention the Godfather. That's who I didn't mention in that Nation lineup. But as usual, Colin not paying attention. So Trey Miguel comes out with a microphone complaining about Trey Miguel comes out with a microphone. He's like, "We are the nation, live and in color." All right. Anyway. No, he comes out and he's complaining about being left off the pay-per-view, and he walks right into an apron chokeslam from PCO, who's just now getting up from his shovel attack. So good timing on that. Let's see. Rich Swann does some push-ups. Then we get a package. And then we get Time Machine versus Bullet Club. So now I'm excited. Because now we're getting into a couple matches I want to see. Specifically, I was excited to see Kenta here. They should have used his theme instead of the generic Bullet Club theme. Because he has a cool theme. But they didn't do it. They just came out as a group. But as I sort of alluded to earlier, as the match went on, I realized that this is the Motor City Machine Guns, and what else could I have possibly ever expected in my life from these guys, who I legitimately heard somebody on some wrestling program say that he thinks that the Motor City Machine Guns are the greatest tag team of all time, and if you don't agree with that, then you're wrong. Who said that recently? So that's just my opinion, but if you disagree, you're wrong.
Alex Shelley?
No, it wasn't him. It was somebody simping for him. But I don't know where it was. Somebody said that on a, I'm talking about like on a promo on television, like on a wrestling show. Like this is part of the show. I forget where it was. Could have been a backstage comment on one of the New Japan shows, maybe New Japan Strong. Maybe. No, it was whatever event Kenta won that belt on. It was one of the fucking guys from. It was not. God, what is his name? I don't know his fucking name. But it's the guy that's tag teaming with Royce Isaacs in New Japan Strong. Kind of looks like if David Otunga got left in the dryer. Anyway, yeah. So, but what that means as a Machine Guns match is that there's going to be lots of move doing and ref burying, not very much psychology. It's just everybody in there doing stuff. They tried to, I don't know. They tried to be exciting. So I guess if you find this stuff exciting, it's exciting. I didn't get as much Kenta as I wanted. He didn't do a lot of his stuff, but I think you did get a taste of like what I'm talking about when he did the spot where everybody was doing dives and then he hit the ropes and then power walked to the ropes and then just stepped out and then punched somebody in the stomach. Like that's the kind of thing I'm talking about, where he's trying to work and these other guys are just doing a bunch of stuff. So, yeah. Anyway, at the end though, surprisingly, Ace Austin pins Goldberg 98 with a backslide of all things. Which, when's the last time you saw someone get pinned with a backslide, guys? But it happened here. So maybe that's what it took all those years ago. Like maybe if Hulk Hogan had just utilized a backslide, he would have never lost that WCW championship. Unfortunately, He's Hulk Hogan, and he probably couldn't have done a backslide, so he ended up getting speared and jackhammered on free TV. And then WCW went out of business. Like right after. There was nothing else. It was just that, and then WWE bought him. Yeah, so any thoughts on this match? What little you saw of Kenta, do you have any impressions of him? Or at least maybe hopefully enticed to see him in a better match with better people? Nothing against Chris Bay and Ace Austin. I'm sure they'd be down to have a nice normal wrestling match, but they can be guilty of doing too much sometimes too. But any thoughts in general?
No, I like seeing where Kenta's been. Like I'm used to seeing him as Hideo Itami, and this is much better improvement from that.
Okay, all right. Media M5 saying fire Kenta and Time Machine Idiot. That's not nice. He's referring to Kushida. But he's just trolling. He doesn't mean that. He loves everyone. I'm glad he could join us. Glad you could join us, media. Yeah. Any other thoughts on the match? Any thoughts on Goldberg 98 losing to a backslide?
Man, I wish Kevin Nash had known that, and then Scott Hall wouldn't have had to use a taser.
Oh, yeah. That's true. No, that's okay. You keep your taser. I've got a wrestling move in mind. So, all right. Well, a package then. Masha versus Mickey for the Knockouts title. I don't know. Well, let's start with you. What did you think of this?
It was all right.
It's all right. It feels like it should have been a little better, huh?
I mean, it's what they've done with. Masha should have been the one to put Mickey on the shelf and win the title from her. My opinion, anyway.
You mean like thinking here, like here in this moment, or earlier?
For last rodeo.
For last rodeo. Yeah. Well, she didn't. And she didn't even get it done here because and yeah, the match was okay. Like nothing they did wrong in the match, I don't think, but I just wasn't feeling it at any point really, sadly. But they're both good, we know that. But here's the issue. Go ahead.
Yeah, but it's just, where does Masha go from here? Like every big opportunity she's had, she's lost.
That's the problem when you give somebody that Goldberg push. At some point, the push has to end. And how have you set that person up for that? Lots of people go on winning streaks to become contenders in the eyes of the people. Like that happens. But they don't all get that like series of squash matches, right? Like she squashed one half of the current tag team champions now. Like it wasn't long. It wasn't even close. She just picked Havoc up and dropped her, and that's it. Like,
and led to a character change.
Right. So, you go that route. It's really hard to keep writing the story that way. But you asked, where do you go from here? Well, I'll tell you where, because this was interesting, I thought, and tell me if you noticed this. So the finish is Masha goes for a monkey flip. Okay, again, when do you see a monkey flip anymore? We got backslides of monkey flips. Like, is Barry Horowitz an agent? Like, is that what they brought him in to do for real? Like, what's going on? But anyway, she goes for a monkey flip on Mickey. Mickey counters the monkey flip. So she gets flipped, but she holds on to Masha's legs and pins her. Okay, so that's the finish. However, Mickey's shoulders were clearly down, like clear as fuck down on the mat, just as flat, if not flatter than Masha's shoulders. So, the question is, was this on purpose? Because that would make two finishes in a row where the other person has an out.
This is clear. Yeah, that has to be intentional. The fact they keep mentioning that Mickey tapped out. It's like even in the packages leading up to this match, they threw in that thing of Jordan saying, like, she tapped out, I beat her.
Mm-hmm. Right? Which led to spots in this match where she's trying to get it, and Mickey's able to get to the ropes on the chokes and stuff. I want you to consider giving media a timeout for saying he loved the Moose match and that the VR spot was funny. Like, I'll leave it up to you ultimately, but he's been in timeout before. He's no stranger to it. Definitely cool his heels for 5 minutes. Shit like that. But, so there is that. Could this, like, and where could this eventually lead? Could this lead into a turn for Mickey James, like on her way out? Could she be a heel that puts somebody else over, like on her way out? Like could it be that way? Like she wants to go out that way, with this whole thing of like, you know, she's only winning because she's, you know, on these technicalities she's scraping by with the title now, and she really doesn't have it anymore. Or is that just a built-in way to explain how like an older woman is beating the up-and-coming talent? It's like just every trick of the trade, every little technicality that you can squeeze out. Like, or are we looking too much into this? We weren't looking too much into it with the tap out thing, because I caught that and some other people didn't. Because they didn't talk about it on commentary, but then they made it into a thing. So then I had to ask, did you make it into a thing because you got caught, or was this always the grand plan? Considering the level of their booking on some of the other things that they do, it's hard for me to give them credit in that area. But maybe, like, if you've got people assigned to individuals and their own certain matches, they can have ideas that only get used for those people, and then everybody else is just like, Machine Guns just do a bunch of triple teams for 10 minutes. Who cares? Like, I don't know. So, yeah. Hey, Boss says, this is a good time to remind everyone about legacy supplements. That's right. Use the promo code K100. Yeah. But so yeah, I mean that is what it is. And then any other final thoughts on either of these two lovely ladies?
I'd like to see us now kind of go into a three-way. Because you have two women who have said, like, we have legitimate gripes of saying we beat Mickey.
Right. Yeah, let's see. Well, let's see how they address this. Let's see if Masha addresses the fact that, you know, Mickey's shoulders were down. So, because once again the announcer said nothing. Then we get a package.
Or it could be Mickey's paying people off. That's the only other thing I could think of.
Right. Yeah, well, okay, there it is. There's the idea. It's out there in the universe now. Okay, so package, then Swan versus Alexander. This was... Alright, look. This was okay, you know. The crowd was behind Swan, pretty much. I heard multiple chants for him throughout. I don't remember hearing anything for Josh. Because he's the big bully beating up on his friend Rich Swann. But I think for a match of, like, you know, two guys who are friends, they did a good job with that, because a lot of times you'll see one of these babyface matches where the guys are like, you're my friend, you're my best friend. They're just trying to kill each other, like pile driver each other on the floor and like, you know, throw them in the guardrails and just fucking try to break their neck and all kinds of other stuff. Apron suplexes and all this. You're my friend, apron suplex. Like, the kind of things you definitely wouldn't do to your friend in a legit contest if you're just trying to win. But yeah. So it was okay for that. But, I mean, I don't think anybody really thought Rich Swann was going to win here, unfortunately. And that is a drawback of the booking, is it's predictable. So that's what I have to say. What about you?
Yeah, I mean, pretty much a lot of the same things. It was a decent match. I enjoyed it. It was nice to see Rich Swann get some character development, get some fire, see him do something different. But again, predictable. We knew where it was going. I mean, it'd been nice to see some kind of a monkey wrench thrown in there, just to see something different.
Or a monkey flip. But we already saw that. It was countered. Yeah. So there was no surrender. I mean, if you had to give No Surrender a letter grade for an overall presentation, what would you say? And what would have been your match of the night?
I'd give it a C plus. I mean, the technical issues kept it from being any higher.
Mm-hmm.
Match of the night, as far as entertainment value goes, just for like looking at it in a vacuum on its own, Moose and Hendry. But for like its effect on the show, I would call it a net negative. But on its own, in a vacuum, I thought it was entertaining.
Okay. Yeah. I'll probably agree with you and say that the show will get a C or somewhere in that area. I think versus expectations of not really wanting to watch the show at all, maybe even a B minus. But just in the real world, a C. Like, I'm giving it a C for the reasons that you mentioned, and because of some of the weird booking choices on it. Didn't really care for those. The waste of time with the busted open segment. I could have knocked a good 20 minutes off this whole thing if we could have got rid of that.
That could have been on the show. You could have replaced that with the Monsters Ball match.
Yeah. But then you would have had two similar matches on the same card. So I get it. Yeah. And match of the night. Fuck, what was it? I'm going to go look at the matches again. My notes here. Best match of the night was. Holy shit. What was the best match of the night?
I probably would have, if we're looking as far now, I probably would have ended up going with Swan Alexander.
Yeah, I have to, even though I didn't really care about it. I could say Hex versus the Death Dolls because it was over quick. But no, yeah, probably just the main event, I guess. But Hatebot asks, why does anyone care about Josh Alexander? Dude is on a Roman Reigns run with the Impact belt, and I can't for the life of me figure out why. Well, look, he's not on a Roman Reigns run because he's only been a champion a third of the time that Roman Reigns has been. But I guess for Impact, that is a Roman Reigns run because I think they said he was like the longest reigning Impact champion.
Yeah.
Of course, that is Impact champion. And I remember they used to have a TNA champion also. So they can say things like that because it's technically true.
And the NWA world title.
Yeah, what about that? So, not really untrue, but still like about a year. It's been around for about a year. And I think it's more of like, a reward for the hard work that he's done. The fact that he is Canadian gets a reward. And, that you're going to have like at least a solid main event and you can put a bunch of different people in that main event. So if you want to say, hey, at the end of the day, we might have Moose grab some VR butt cheeks, but we're still a serious wrestling company, you could put a guy like Josh Alexander in there. However, I do agree that there's something missing there. So I don't know. I don't know. I'd have to get some real Josh Alexander fans to come in here and help me out if I'm going to try to defend him. But yes, I did say that. It happened. It was there. You saw it. You can go to Moose's Instagram right now and see a clip of him doing what he did in that match for free if you don't want to watch it. So, but yeah. So there you go. That was our review of No Surrender and February 23rd Impact. So let's get the hell out of here. Sorry if you guys had any questions. I don't feel like answering them. I answered enough during the show because you guys didn't hold your questions till the end, like I said. So, But anyway, Brandon, where can the people find more of you?
As always, you can find me on Twitter at TransArchisTia, as well as Twitch at Miss Tia the Transarchist, and here every Monday night with the Impact Attack. Whoop, whoop.
Whoop, whoop, indeed. And don't forget the A Show with April Hunter and Big Ray Hernandez from this past week. You
yes.
can get more Brandon there.
Yeah, please check out that show. That was a great, informative discussion.
Yeah, good show. You got Ray emotional there. He got very emotional. That's not hard, by the way. He will get emotional about lots of things, and there will be lots of different emotions. But nonetheless, it happened. Let's see. What else? All right, so you can find me at Opinion Haver on all the social media platforms. Pick your favorite social media platform and follow Opinion Haver on it. Just make sure it's me. You know what? On Twitter, there's a guy where the username in his description is, I think it's William B. Fuckley, and his actual Twitter handle is at Opinionhaver. Like, he didn't spell it right, or he just wanted to get close enough because I had already taken it, and he just left the I out and misspelled it. Oddly enough, every once in a while, more than 0 times, which is what it should be, I end up getting dragged into these weird political argument threads that this guy has, because people, instead of just replying to him and using his name, they're trying to spell his name the way they think it should have been spelled if he had spelled it right. So they put my tag in there, and then I have to go, and then I have to like remove myself from the conversation or whatever. So that's my point in saying, make sure you're following the right opinion haver, okay? Which is always going to be me. And you'll know it's me because you'll see that little cheat commandos icon or whatever that I use. But other than that, you can always find me on the Next Level Wrestling Review with Big Ray Hernandez, the aforementioned, to talk about NXT. That's every Wednesday at 8 a.m. Pacific, 11 a.m. Eastern, live. And you can find me, sometimes you can find me on Wrestling with Rip Rogers on Friday's live Q&A sessions. And if you didn't see the anniversary show, that's a way that you could see me and Deonna Purrazzo and Santino Marella all on the same show for a true Impact reunion. Although, unfortunately, I was unable to interact with them because of timing issues. But, yes, check that out. And you can also, sometimes you can find me on the Smack Attack. But I think we've been getting those PWC guys in there on the Smack Attack once in a while. For better or worse, those guys are now over there and hanging out. So, but it's not completely out of the realm of possibility that I may pop in from time to time just to straighten people out or just to say hello. So you can find me there. And let's see, anything else I can put over? Well, twitch.tv/opinionhaver is one of those social media platforms. Liz was asking, what am I playing tomorrow? I think I'll probably continue with True Crime Tuesdays, the trues in quotes, because it's a video game. It's obviously not true. But I may be digging back into Mafia again. It seems to be a good old time. You know, you want to play some Prohibition era Grand Theft Auto? I will definitely wet your whistle with that one. So, that's pretty much it. And that's probably going to go around, I don't know, whenever I feel like it. Just hit that notification bell so that you can know when I go live. And that's just about it. So to wrap up the Impact Attack, I'm Jamie Williams, and for Brandon, I don't have a sign off line.